So when we devalue women, we damage them. Let's get fixing this. What can young men like yourself do to work against these stereotypes that are bringing so much suffering to the women in our world? And I've got 3 big ideas for you. The first one is this: treat each person as an individual. I mean, that's the opposite of a stereotype. Treat each person as an individual. There's a lot of talk about how men and women are different. It's a fascinating conversation. But actually, the differences between men and women on average are very, very small. But I want you to imagine 100 random men and 100 random women being collected and being brought into a big hall and then arranged into pairs. So you've got one man, one woman, you've got 100 pairs like this. Now you test these pairs to see who is more diligent. And it turns out, this is what the stats say, that in 50 of the pairs it'll be the women, and in 50 of the pairs it'll be the men. What this means is that there are no differences in diligence on average between men and women. Same with assertiveness. In 50 of the pairs, men will be more assertive than women. In 50 of the pairs, women will be more assertive than men. This means that on average, men and women are no different in assertiveness. But it gets interesting when you measure for compassion and orderliness. When you ask who's more compassionate, who's more orderly, well, now in about 55 to 60 of the pairs, it's the woman, and in 45 to 40 of the pairs, it's the man. So now what you can tell is that on average, women tend to be more compassionate, more orderly. And then if you test for analytic mindedness and staying calm under pressure, well, now it swings the other way, because in 55 to 60 of the pairs, it's the man who's more calm under pressure, more analytic, and in 40 to 45 of the pairs, it's the woman. So what you can tell now is that on average, women are more compassionate and orderly than men, and on average, men are more analytic minded and calm under pressure than women. It's fascinating stuff. It doesn't help us, because we still need to treat each person as an individual. You can't project this generalization onto each case, because still, if you're looking for the more analytic person, in 40 of the pairs, it's still going to be the woman than the man. If you're looking for the most compassionate person, in 40 of the pairs, it's still going to be the man over the woman. And think about how this changes the way we treat each other. So imagine there's a company that is looking to hire an analytic engineer. Well, according to the stats, many of the job applicants should be women, because there are so many women who are analytic minded. And then if a hospital is looking to hire a compassionate nurse, well, many of the job applicants should be a man, because in so many cases, the man is more compassionate than the woman. The point is, treat each person as an individual. Stereotypes rely on generalizations. They don't work when it comes to dealing with the person right in front of you. Second way to push back gender stereotypes, female stereotypes, is this: beware porn rewires your brain. Beware porn rewires your brain. The research shows that men who are regularly exposed to porn tend to have deeper sexism towards women. I personally don't think it's right to use porn, but I suppose there's better and worse versions of it. And if you compare the porn now with the porn of 2 decades ago, what's happened is it's got rougher, it's got more aggressive. A recent study looked at the videos that are most often used on the internet and found that 87% of these videos, men are treating women aggressively, whether it's physical, sexual, verbal. They are dominating women. And remember, porn is made by men, usually for men, and it's training men to objectify women. And when you see women being treated like that, it brainwashes you into thinking it's okay to dominate women. It's not. And not only that, when women themselves, young girls, are exposed to this kind of porn, it grooms them like a predator would groom an abuse victim. I think about Billie Eilish, the famous music star. She speaks about how she was exposed to this kind of rough porn as a teenager, and how much it's damaged her relationships and sex life now that she's an adult. And then the third way to push back these female stereotypes is to understand the long history of misogyny. Understand the long history of this battle against misogyny. Misogyny is this belief in the inferiority of women, this prejudice against women. In the history of the world, the great battles have been against slavery, racism, and next to that surely is the battle for the equality of women. Since day dot, women have been treated as less than men. Think about the 1400s, 1500s, you've got these terrible witch hunts happening on both sides of the Atlantic. Finally, the Enlightenment thinkers come about. They believe in the equality of all human beings, and yet they write the first encyclopedia, and I'll quote what it says about women. It says that women are weak, timid, shrewd, vicious, vindictive, superficial, and deceitful. And this is the thinking of the Enlightenment thinkers. Think about women voting. In democratic countries, the first country in the history of the world to allow women to even have a say in making decisions was the Pitcairn Islands in 1838. In fact, only in 2015 did the last country in the world that claimed to be democratic allow women to vote. Saudi Arabia in 2015, and you're not allowed to vote in national elections, but local municipal elections. In the 70s and the 60s, there were these huge civil protests and these liberation movements sweeping the planet. It was the perfect time for the women's liberation movement to come to the fore, and they won great victories. In just a few short decades, this millennia-long oppression of women has given way to a world in which, I'm going to quote, we now have female judges, female software developers, surgeons, politicians, professors and CEOs, and all of this seems perfectly normal, and yet we still have such a long way to go. And the reason I give you this quick history of the long history of this battle against misogyny is so that you can feel the excitement of the story. It's a wave that is sweeping our planet that you get to ride. You get to be part of the better treatment of women, and it's a wave that's still going. It still has work to do. So pulling it all together, when men have these stereotypes of women, we create a world where women's lives shrink and they're damaged. Much, much better is to firstly, to treat each person as an individual, to be aware that porn rewires the brain, and then to be part of the story of this long battle, this victory against misogyny.